I never imagined that living on a peaceful suburban street could feel like being trapped in a crime thriller. Yet that's exactly how it felt the morning I discovered my Bugatti was gone. The night before, it had been parked right outside my house, its black chrome body gleaming under the streetlights. By dawn, the only thing left was an empty stretch of pavement where it once stood. No shattered glass, no forced entry, not even a tire skid. Just gone. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just a car. It was a symbol of everything I had worked for, a statement of success. And now someone had taken it. I rushed to the security cameras I'd installed months earlier, hoping for answers. What I saw nearly made me laugh from the absurdity before the anger set in. At exactly 2:17 a.m., clear as day, Karen's son, the same golden boy of the neighborhood, crept into my driveway, slid behind the wheel, and drove off like he had every right to it. I watched the footage again and again, each replay stoking my fury, and then came the twist of the knife. The very next morning, who should appear at my door but Karen herself, the neighborhood's infamous HOA queen. She showed up with a fake smile plastered across her face, speaking in sugary tones, urging me to just forget the whole thing. According to her, her son didn't mean any harm. I could hardly believe it. A $400,000 car vanishes in the middle of the night. I have undeniable proof of who took it. And her solution was for me to stay silent, for the sake of her precious boy. Neighbors began whispering their excuses, too. Maybe it was just kids being kids, they said. But I knew better. This wasn't a childish mistake. It was entitlement, plain and simple. Karen thought that because she wielded power through the HOA, her family was untouchable, and I was supposed to quietly eat the loss. I wasn't about to let that happen. I spent the next several hours calling the police, filing official reports, and updating my insurance company. And through it all, Karen hovered nearby like a vulture. Every word out of her mouth dripped with condescension, as if I was the irrational one for daring to protect what I'd earned. Worse, she tried to spin the story with the neighbors, painting me as the overreactor while positioning her son as the victim of a simple misunderstanding. But the security footage told the truth. Every frame, every timestamp was proof that Karen's son had stolen my car, and I wasn't about to let her gaslight me into submission. That day, I learned an important truth. In this quiet neighborhood, power wasn't about wealth or morality. It was about control, who could bend others into silence. Karen thought she had mastered that game. What she didn't realize was that I had no intention of bowing to her. After filing the police report, I hoped things would cool down. Instead, by mid-morning, Karen was back on my doorstep, armed with that same smug smile she wore like armor. She said she just wanted to clear up a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Her son had stolen my Bugatti, and she wanted me to sweep it under the rug. My patience was thinning, but I knew better than to explode. Calm would be my weapon. I led her into the living room, all the while calculating my options. She wasted no time starting her routine. "I know your car means a lot to you," she said, her voice syrupy. "But can't we just let it go? My son is young. He didn't realize the consequences." She leaned forward like she expected sympathy, but I didn't blink. "Understand this," I said firmly. "That car isn't just metal. It's property. And what he did was theft." Her smile faltered for a split second before she switched tactics. "Well," she said sharply, "maybe you shouldn't leave such an expensive car out at night." The implication was clear. This was my fault for tempting her son. I raised an eyebrow and let the silence hang. The quiet rattled her more than any argument could. Finally, she played her last card. Thinly veiled threats dressed as concern. "People will talk," she said in a low voice. "And you don't want to be the subject of neighborhood gossip, do you?" That was it. I let out a short laugh, steady and cold. "Karen," I said, "I don't care what the neighbors whisper. What I care about is justice. Your son needs to be held accountable." That was all I said before Karen's mask slipped. The sugary tone was gone, replaced by the cold, sharp glare that had made her infamous around the HOA. For a moment, I wondered if she had ever truly understood what real power meant. It wasn't about barking the loudest orders or intimidating neighbors. It was about standing firm when it counted. By the time she stormed out of my house and stomped back to her SUV, muttering under her breath, I felt something surprising. Not fear, but energy. Her manipulation attempts weren't clever. They were predictable, and that gave me the advantage. I knew one thing for certain. Getting my Bugatti back wasn't going to happen by waiting for her son to suddenly feel guilty. This was going to take strategy. If Karen thought she could play games with me, she was about to learn that I could play smarter. The first step was evidence. I went back over the footage frame by frame, noting every detail. The exact second he entered my driveway, the way the headlights cut across the street as he pulled away, even the faint glimmer of the license plate caught in a reflection down the block. This wasn't just a theft. It was a case, and I was ready to build it. Next, I called in professionals, a private recovery service that specialized in high-end vehicles. They were discreet, efficient, and didn't care one bit about HOA gossip or local politics. I explained the situation, showed them the footage, and within hours, we had a recovery plan. The mission was simple: trace the car, track likely hangouts, and move in before it was gone for good. My pulse pounded, but beneath the nerves was a thrill. This wasn't just about a stolen car anymore. It was about taking control back from someone who thought she could bully me into silence. Meanwhile, Karen's behavior turned even stranger. Neighbors told me they saw her circling my driveway, sometimes pretending to jog, other times checking the neighborhood like some self-appointed watch captain. But every glance she threw toward my house screamed desperation. She knew her son was caught red-handed, and her perfect facade was cracking. The irony was delicious. She had spent years weaponizing her HOA status, and now her own family's actions were tearing down that carefully polished image. Then came the night of the recovery. I positioned myself near one of her son's usual hangouts, staying hidden while the recovery team worked. The hours dragged by, the silence heavy, but then it happened. Just a block away, there sat my Bugatti, engine idling, like it was taunting me. The team moved with precision. Within minutes, the car was secured, safe, and the keys were back in my hand. The wave of relief that hit me was indescribable. I had my Bugatti back, but more importantly, I had the undeniable proof and leverage I needed. Now it was time to finish this. The very next morning, I made sure the Bugatti was parked front and center in my driveway, gleaming in the sunlight. Like a trophy. Like a dare. I didn't have to wait long before Karen appeared, striding down the street with her usual smugness. But this time, her confidence seemed thinner, almost brittle. "You got your car back," she said, trying to sound casual. "So I guess we can just forget about this whole thing, right?" Her voice wavered at the edges, betraying the fear behind the act. Not this time. I shook my head slowly. "No, Karen, we're not forgetting anything. You and your son need to understand that actions have consequences." Her face paled when I reached into my pocket and pulled out the portable drive. I held it up. "This is proof. Your son stole my car, and you tried to gaslight me into covering it up. The neighborhood won't forget this either." The panic in her eyes was unmistakable. For so long, she had used intimidation to control people, bending stories to suit her will. But now the narrative wasn't hers to spin. Neighbors had begun gathering, watching from porches and sidewalks, curious about the confrontation. Karen sputtered excuses, tried to twist the story, but I kept speaking calmly, laying out each step: the theft, the footage, the recovery. With every word, her authority crumbled further. Her usual allies, the ones who parroted her HOA decrees, were silent now. There was nothing they could say. Karen was exposed, and everyone knew it. Finally, with her composure in tatters, she forced a tight smile and muttered something about legal action before storming back to her SUV. But we both knew the truth. Her threats were hollow. The real blow was to her ego, shattered in front of the very people she had ruled over for years. As I slid into my Bugatti, the engine's growl felt like victory. This wasn't just about reclaiming a stolen car. It was about reclaiming respect, boundaries, and proving that no amount of suburban intimidation could erase justice. Karen and her son might still cling to their petty HOA games, but they'd never forget this day. They had finally met someone who wouldn't bow. As I drove off, watching Karen shrink in the rearview mirror, one truth echoed in my mind. Entitlement doesn't disappear on its own. Sometimes you have to be the one to teach the lesson, and if you thought this story was wild, trust me, there are plenty more. For more insane HOA showdowns and unbelievable neighborhood drama, hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss the next story. And I want to hear from you. What would you have done if Karen's son had stolen your car? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Your support keeps these stories coming.